Well, good morning. Good morning. Myself and the Mayor Modesto would say go ahead and get seated and get. Hey, by the way, go get your coffee. So listen, this is not one of these regular meetings. Make sure you're talking to each other, getting to know each other. We are going to be starting soon. So good morning.
Good morning. Did you guys all get your cup of coffee? It's early in the morning, so thank you so much for being here. My name is Erica Ignacio. Welcome to Catalyst, a monthly gathering of Stanislaus County sector leaders and influencers. I want to welcome you who are here in the room and those who have joined us on our live streams. If you're on Zoom, there will be times when you will be able to interact with our online host, John Torres, who on my end over here, he's all the way out there in the corner. Thank you, John. And you will also be, if you're on Facebook Live, Carlos Gonzalez will be there to answer any questions that you may have. Be nice, John. Several quick items to get us started this morning. First of all, thank you to Starbucks for providing us with the coffee. We need that good caffeine kick, so thank you so much. Secondly, in case you guys haven't heard, the groundhog Phil saw his shadow this morning, so we have 6 more weeks of winter. Sorry about that. We also want to celebrate the 4 community businesses that sponsor Catalyst. Access Capital, Oak Valley Community Bank, Rolling F Credit Union, and Blue Shield of California. Thank you so much. If you're here in the room at your table, you will see a sign-in sheet. Please take a few minutes, sign in, provide us with your email. We will keep you notified of future events that we will have with Catalyst. And there's also a welcome card at the table. So if this is the first time that you're joining us, this is the way that we will get you into the registry so that you are notified of future events. If you're online, please remember to mute your audio. John does not want to be hearing the feedback and the comments. If you want to use the chat, feel free to do that as well. So for all of us that are part of this meeting this morning, please check in at Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Take a few minutes and do that. It's very important. This is the way that we get the word out about Catalyst, and it'll show up on other people's feed stream, and they'll be able to hear what's going on in the community. Go to City Ministry Network Facebook page, follow us, like us, and then let those that follow you know about Catalyst. What is the purpose of Catalyst? Catalyst is a place for community conversations and connections that matter and inspire. So again, thank you so much for being here. This is a safe space to explore issues that face our community. We are diverse people from different perspectives that choose to work together for the benefit of our community. And don't forget that that's our end goal, our community. Our hope is that you will connect with others who share your vision, your passion, begin to build trust, and work together to impact our community for everyone's benefit. So on the screen, you will see Gabriela's success video, which is one of our members that joined us at one time. So let's see if we could get that going.
Hi, I'm Gabi Hernandez, founder of Mazavena. My business specializes in tasty, healthy tortillas. We offer organic, car-wash tortillas made with oats. When I was invited to participate in a Catalyst meeting, I shared how hard it was for me to start my business because of 3 barriers. First of all, most information is in English. Second, my network was so tiny. And third, I needed professional-grade equipment. I would like to thank City Ministry Network for hosting these monthly gatherings. Catalyst is truly a place to connect, build trust, and collaborate. After attending Catalyst, many doors have opened up for me. Donations began to pour in from my community, helping me to grow Mazavena. With these donations, I paid for permits, license, and the right kitchen equipment. They helped me to make my dream of starting my business come true. Thanks to attending the Catalyst gathering, I later met the owners of Alto's Cocina restaurant. They offered their support by making my tortillas available to purchase in the restaurant. If you are looking for a place where you can share your dream, connect with people, and feel the love and support from our community, then I invite you to attend the next Catalyst gathering in Modesto.
Who wants a tortilla with some salsa? So that was just to open the appetite. Once we're done, we can all have breakfast. So secondly now, on to a more serious topic. How many of you guys have heard of fentanyl? How many of you guys have had some type of an experience with fentanyl? It has impacted so many of us. And today I want to welcome Jennifer Marsh. So I'm going to do a little quick introduction about Jennifer, and then she will share information with us about fentanyl, how it's affecting our community. Jennifer Marsh was born in Turlock and was raised in the Central Valley. She graduated from Stanislaus State University in 1997. She has worked for Stanislaus County for nearly 26 years. Most of her time has been with the Behavioral Health and Recovery Services, and she's currently the Substance Use Disorder Coordinator within the Prevention Services Division. Jennifer found her calling when she began working as an analyst with BHRS, Substance Use Education and Prevention Services back in 2009. Prevention is her passion, and you will see this, and she's been with prevention ever since. Jennifer and her husband are the proud parents of 2 children born and raised in Modesto. Jennifer, you want to come up and join us? Let's give her an applause. One more round of applause to get her started.
Good morning. Well, thank you so much for having me. Wonderful to see so many faces here this morning and interested in hopefully hearing about the fentanyl epidemic that is definitely impacting not just our nation, but California and here in Stanislaus County. And normally there's a screen in the back that I can use to reference the slides behind me, but that's not working today. So I have my phone. So hopefully I'm not turning around too much. Okay. All right, so to get us started in the conversation this morning, we have a table discussion question. So we'd like all of you to, within your tables, to take a few minutes and to answer this question. How is our community impacted by the opioid crisis? So I'm going to give you a couple minutes to discuss that at your tables, and then we'll get right into the presentation. Okay, we're going to bring everybody back. Hopefully you had some great conversations at your tables. Okay, thank you, everybody. Apologies, I'm going to have to be turning around here. Okay, so we're here to talk about fentanyl this morning. And fentanyl is an opioid. It's in the opioid family. And it is a synthetic opioid, meaning that it's man-made. It's not natural, directly coming from the poppy plant. And it is 50 times stronger than heroin and 100 times stronger than morphine. There's 2 types of fentanyl. There's your pharmaceutical-grade fentanyl, and there's also the illicitly manufactured fentanyl, which is what's really impacting our community. On the pharmaceutical grade, it's something that was created back in the 60s, and it was an anesthesia, and is also used for pain after surgery. The illicitly manufactured fentanyl, the concern is that it's being manufactured by our drug cartels, and there's no potency variables, there's no quality checks, so we don't know what we're getting and what's being mixed into all of our drugs right now at the street level. One more thing about fentanyl is you can't see it, you can't taste it, and you can't smell it. So you don't know if it's in methamphetamines, if it's in cocaine, or in a counterfeit pill, which you'll learn more about during the presentation. So rainbow fentanyl is something that we did some alerts back in October before Halloween. The California Department of Public Health put out an alert to all of our school districts, warning schools to notify families that these new brightly colored fentanyl pills were on the market. And unfortunately, they are here in Stanislaus County as well. As you can see by the pictures on the bottom left, yes, your left, my right. you see those brightly colored pills, and there's been reports also, specifically the bust that happened in Ripon that you probably saw in the news. They actually smell like sweet tarts. So definitely targeting our young people. The middle picture was a seizure in Riverbank last year, and the far right is the powder form of fentanyl, also seized by our sheriff's office through the SIU. Okay, so how much is a fatal dose? So fentanyl is very potent and highly addictive. It takes a very small amount for it to be lethal. Just 2 milligrams is enough to be fatal. So if you want to put that in perspective, if you think about just your regular table salt that you have at home, you do 1 shake of the salt shaker, you get about 10 to 15 grains of salt from that. That's the equivalent of a lethal dose of fentanyl. So again, a very small amount to be potent. The picture on the left, you can see a DEA agent putting on the very tip of a pencil that lethal amount of fentanyl, and then that's blown up on the pencil next to it. Again, just a very, very small amount is what's needed. So something of great concern is the counterfeit pills that are out in our community, and there'll be a slide coming of some of the young people that we've lost to an overdose and poisoning death. We're very intentional about saying overdose and poisoning. You can't take too much of something you didn't know you were taking. On the fake pill picture you have here, you have in green, you have the actual oxycodone, Xanax, and an Adderall. Below that in red are the counterfeit versions of that are being sold on the streets. Can you tell the difference between the two of them? So just some local impacts. In 2021, we lost 176 lives in Stanislaus County to an overdose and poisoning death. That's 3 to 4 residents every single week. So that's basically every other day we're losing somebody in our community to this. Just 1 loss of life is too many, but 176 is just devastating. So far in 2022, we still are awaiting all the final numbers through the coroner's office. Preliminary data puts us on track to meet or exceed those highest 2021 numbers. We're already at 156 as of a couple weeks ago, and again, that's just preliminary data based on closed cases. So we still have a couple months more data to come into that. So the picture on the bottom right here, back in August, we had our county's very first 5K walk to raise awareness to overdose and poisoning deaths. At the walk at Grisada Park, we had 176 chairs out to represent the 176 people that we lost. Very powerful to see that display. And the families that we're working with, we had pictures of their loved ones there as well. The red chairs are all the opioid-related overdose and poisoning deaths. The green chairs are methamphetamine-related, and blue are other, just to give you kind of a visual of who we're losing. Of the red chairs, it's hard to see in this picture, but there is a small yellow poison triangle on the red chairs for each of those that was fentanyl-related. And if you can see by the chart, fentanyl is definitely the driver of our overdose and poisoning deaths. Just the preliminary data for 2022, we've already exceeded the 2021 numbers in just fentanyl-related deaths, and we anticipate, again, that going up. So these are some of the, oops, that's why I have to turn around. So these are some of the beautiful people that we've lost here in Stanislaus County in the last couple years to this. We'll be hearing from 2 of the families of the individuals on the banner here, and it's definitely impacting all of our families. So many people, when you hear of an overdose or a poisoning death, you think of that homeless person that's under the bridge with a needle in the arm, and that's definitely some of the population that we're losing, but people don't think about who else we're losing too. And really seeing those faces really helps to resonate how big of an issue this is, and looking at the young people that we're losing. So the drug landscape has changed. It used to be in prevention, we would talk to young people about not trying marijuana, not drinking alcohol before you're 21, not trying illicit drugs because you might get addicted. those times have changed. There's not even an opportunity for addiction with our young people anymore. It's taking one time of taking a counterfeit pill and they're losing their life. So 1 in 4 children have seen on social media drugs for sale. That's staggering to me, 1 in 4. So every young person, probably every person in this room has a smartphone with them. That means you also have a drug dealer with you and have access to illegal substances through social media like Snapchat and Instagram. DEA has put out the emoji kind of decoder. So if you have young people at home, definitely be monitoring their social media. You could Google DEA emojis and get the full list to be able to know if you see these symbols in your kids' social media, be concerned and have a conversation with them about it. So some signs of an overdose and poisoning. So we'll be talking about Narcan at the end of this. We've got that available for all of you today. Some signs of an overdose and poisoning is small constricted pinpoint pupils, falling asleep, losing consciousness, slow to weak breathing. There could be some blueness around the lips, also discoloration on the fingertips. If you suspect someone has gone down from an overdose, always call 911 first. Always get emergency medical there and on their way, and also have Narcan and administer the Narcan to be able to save a life, and we'll go through how to do that. So if you know someone that is struggling with a substance use disorder, there are treatment services available here in Stanislaus County. There is an access line through Behavioral Health and Recovery Services that people can call, have an assessment, be screened for potential resources and services they might need in our community. We also have a Stanislaus County Opioid Safety Coalition, and this is our website, stanrx.net. It's a great resource that has all the information that you could possibly ever dream of, from parents on how to talk to your kids about alcohol and drug use to prescribers with safe prescribing practices. Just a really great resource. Also has all our upcoming events that we have through the coalition. So I encourage you to go to stanrx.net, look at the resources, and see what's available. Okay, with that, I'd like to introduce Christy Hoffman. She is one of our amazing families that is turning her pain into purpose, and she is going to be sharing the story of Connor.
Hi, thank you for being here. It's always hard to come into a meeting like this and decide what to say that will have an impact. My prayer is that you will leave today better informed, educated, and passionate about the devastation that fentanyl is to our community. There's no more just getting high and experimenting like a lot of us did in the past when we were young and stupid. Fentanyl has changed everything in the drug landscape. I would like to do a little exercise with you this morning. If you would please close your eyes. I want you to picture your child or a child you love dearly as a sweet, innocent baby. You're just taking care of their every need. Now picture them as a precocious 5-year-old just entering kindergarten and starting to venture out of your grasp. Now picture them a little older in elementary school, going to sleepovers and developing friendships that don't have anything to do with you. Then comes junior high with all the influences that come with that. Now picture them in high school, driving off for the first time, making their own decisions. As they grew, we could protect them somewhat, warn them of all the bad stuff out there in the world. But you can't really make them internalize it and know it for themselves. They're too young. Their brain isn't formed yet. Their reasoning skills are just not there yet. They are emerging out of a funnel where we as parents don't have any more control over their actions, if we ever really did. You can't just tell them, say no to drugs. Okay, you can open your eyes. I want to tell you a little about my story, and then I will loop you back into why I asked you to do this little exercise with me. My son Connor was a good kid from a good family. He was loved deeply, and he knew it. He has an older sister who he adored. They're 6 years apart. He was a happy baby, a very busy toddler, and a sweet boy. We were very involved in our church, and Connor had a deeply held faith in Jesus. He had a group of 6 friends from birth that he grew up with from our church, and they were always together. He went on multiple missions trips with our youth group all during high school. He was great with his hands and super creative. He was always trying to invent things and loved working with carving wood and welding. Connor was smart and caring. He was friendly and respectful. He was creative and nurturing. He was loyal and thoughtful. Connor always said he would never do drugs. He didn't understand why people would. He knew it was a bad thing. He held off until he was 19 years old. At that time, he lost his friend group, lost his girlfriend, COVID hit, and he was isolated, which was the worst thing in the world for him. He turned to another group of guys he had met at some point that I didn't know very well. They were all younger and looked up to him, which was a big self-esteem boost to him. They were experimenting with drugs. He said no for a while until they all convinced him how much fun it would be to get high. He tried weed, and 3 months later, he went on to stronger things. This went on for about a year and a half, spiraling more and more out of control. In March of 2021, he knew he needed help, and we got him into the Modesto Gospel Mission. He was there for 30 days, which is never enough, and he thought he'd be fine. Recovery is messy. There isn't a straight line where you learn everything you need, and then you're just fine. He tried to get into an outpatient program when he got out of there, but there was a lag time of a couple of weeks, and before he could start, he drank alcohol, which made him ineligible for that program. He would have to start all over with another rehab. He went into Nirvana at the end of April, as soon as he could get a bed. Connor graduated from the Nirvana rehab on Tuesday, May 25th, 2021. On Wednesday, May 26th, Connor settled back into our home. On Thursday, May 27th, Connor and I spent the day together car shopping. It was 5 o'clock by the time we settled on a car and too late to go to the bank, so we decided to go the next morning. On May 28th, 2021, 3 days after Connor got home, I found him lying on the floor in our living room, dead. I won't go into detail about the things we experienced that day, but I daily live with those images. They spin in my head 24/7. My son's life is not defined by the manner of his death. The fact is, good hearts sometimes make poor choices, and $10 worth of fentanyl delivered to my door from a predator on Snapchat took away his chance for recovery. He had a plan when he got home from rehab. He had dreams and goals. He wanted to be a youth pastor. What does your child want to be when they grow up? A fireman, a doctor, a musician? I wanted to be a ballerina. We've got to get rid of the stigma of addiction if we're going to make any difference. No one grows up wanting to be addicted to drugs. There comes a point it just happens. With fentanyl, the decision to getting out is taken away very quickly. You start with maybe a regular Vicodin or Xanax and try to relax. Then someone gives you something you think is the same, but it's not. It's stronger. It makes you feel better than the last one you took, so heck, why not get it from that guy next time? It's insidious. You don't know you're getting hooked until you are. The decisions made in addiction are not your own. The drug drives them. Your only choice after that becomes taking whatever's going to make you feel better. Not get high, just not feel sick. It becomes need-driven. Now, this is a poor example, but just imagine for a minute putting your phone away for 24 hours, not looking at it at all. How many times a day do you think your mind would turn to something you need to see or do on your phone? It's your calendar, your memories and pictures, your grocery list, your dictionary, your music, your games, your access to people. If I forget mine when I go to the store, I'm lost. Now imagine desperately needing your phone for something, the need to get a hold of someone, to get access to a vital piece of information that only it contains. This need is spinning through your head on a constant basis. Now replace that with the need for a drug in the mind of someone in addiction and multiply it times 1,000,000. You can't focus on anything else but that need. It's all consuming. And with that need comes the guilt and the shame and consequences of what your actions are causing, but you're not capable of doing anything about it because that need drives out everything else. We've got to stop the stigma of addiction in our society if we are going to be able to help real people. We need to stop using words like druggies and junkies. They are demeaning and are not accurate words to describe someone in the hell of addiction. Another big issue is concerning Narcan. I've heard story after story of people who think Narcan is part of the problem. I've had people tell me, why bother? They're just going to go out and use again. My question to these people is this. If it were your child who made a poor choice and someone used Narcan to save them, wouldn't you want that extra chance for your child? When you drive away from here and see all the homeless people running around in the road and talking to themselves, try to remember they are someone's child too. We need to learn to accept people where they are without adding our expectations to the burdens they already carry. Now go back to the beginning with me and picture your loved ones again. Imagine that is your child caught up in this hell, your baby, your precocious 5-year-old, your elementary-age child, your junior higher, your high schooler, the child you love beyond measure. Imagine finding them dead on the floor in your living room when you go down the stairs to have coffee on a Friday morning. That was my reality. This isn't just someone else's story you're listening to on a Thursday morning or a TV show about some other family. This could be you. Telling our kids just say no to drugs isn't going to cut it. We need to do more. We can't stick our head in the sand and say it won't happen to my kid. My kid knows better. My kid knew better. Connor knew better. Yet here I am. My prayer is that it's never you sitting here. Thank you. I'd like to introduce Sophia Vivo.
Hi everyone, I'm Sophia Vivo and I work with Jen through Friday Night Live, and I go to high schools and I tell the story of my sister. So before I start, we have a video to kind of give you guys an idea of who she was.
Bella was outgoing.
Bella was caring.
Bella was expressive. Bella was loyal, selfless.
Bella was strong.
Carefree. The shining star.
Spunky.
Bella was Bella.
Mike and JD are like our best friends, and all our kids are considered my kids too. Bella was very special to us. We loved her as a daughter.
Bella was like a sister to me. She would never let me feel like I was any less of a person. She would always stick up for me, and she just never let me feel like I was a nobody.
She meant a lot to me. She was like a second sister I always wanted.
She always had your back no matter what, and she never she was such a loyal person. You could count on her for anything.
One of my favorite cousins, my best friend.
We grew up as one big family, so with her, she made everybody feel welcome. Whether she was having a bad day or not, I felt that she was always happy, so I didn't think anything. I always felt welcome when I came around.
She'd be the first one to talk to you. She makes sure that you were comfortable. She always made friends wherever she went. She didn't care who you were or where you came from. She was the first one there.
You know, forget what was on the field or on the court. It turned into the Bella show. Everyone would pay attention to her, and you know, she'd make everyone laugh, and she really knew how to light up a room wherever she was at. It didn't matter where, and it didn't matter how long you knew her. She was gonna light up that room, and you were gonna be affected by her.
Bella's biggest lesson she taught me was to not take life as serious as you think it is.
Just speak how you want, be who you are. That's the biggest lesson.
to always stick up for myself.
And sometimes I think and I go, what did we miss? You know, what did, and that's kind of what I took away from all of this, was to try to be more attentive, to pay more attention,
to all of
just to try to do something, you know.
If I could tell her one last thing, is that people are there for you. Probably that I love her.
Tell her that I love her.
That I loved her.
We're at a basketball game. Roommate with Michael. Michael John was playing, and she was up underneath one of the hoops. And there was an older boys from high school that were like talking to Michael got crap. And her jumped up, started talking crap to him. And it came back, nothing happened. We're like, what would you tell him? She's like, I told him better be quiet, It was and she went back over there. She didn't care how old the boys were. She was young. She was sticking up for her brother. And that's her. I mean, she was crazy. She was something else. She loved her brother.
So that video captures Bella perfectly. She was so crazy, so outgoing. I come from a great family. Both my parents have always been in my life. I've always had everything I could need and more. We were very active members of our community. My dad coached multiple sports growing up. My brother and me played multiple sports in high school. Bella cheerleaded. She played volleyball. She played softball. Dabbled into soccer. It wasn't really her thing, but like they said, Bella was always like the star of everyone's attention. She sang the national anthem at our football games, our basketball games. And like Christine had said, Bella knew better. But it's that idea of thinking that it's not going to be you or someone around you that's really dangerous. One time she came up to us and she was crying and she was telling us about how she knew some of her friends were using pills and she was really scared for what was going to happen to them. She told us it's going to take something really serious for them to truly understand. And it was her. She was that big thing that took them to understand, and she didn't deserve to be that big thing. I know my sister didn't take that pill that night thinking she was going to die. She bought a Xanax off of someone, off social medias, our guess, we don't really know who, and that was her last time. And that's why we're here. That's why I'm up here. That's why I'm telling this story, because it could be anyone. You don't have to be from a bad family. You don't have to have a hard life. You could just be a young kid experimenting, and that's what Bella was. And we have a little quote on the back of our paper that says, "Although there's nothing we can do to bring back our Bella, we will not let her passing be in vain. We will continue to share her story, not only to keep her memory alive, but with the hopes of saving at least one life. This world needs to do better for the kids out there like Bella. So please help us by talking to your loved ones and never thinking that it won't happen to us." And that's really the gist of all I have to say is it's our beautiful, it's our outgoing, it's our fun kids, it's our siblings, it's the kids you play sports with, all of that. It's all of those kids that you have to think about. It's so scary, and it's so real, and it's definitely here. So thank you guys. And now, talk about the pledge. I didn't know I was going to talk about this. So one other thing that we've kind of created to help bring awareness to this, especially with the youth, is we created a pledge. The Star says, Isabella Vivo's story of being poisoned by a deadly pill containing fentanyl made me realize the serious consequences related to abusing medication. I pledged to be better for Bella by promising to use medication safely and only as directed by a medical professional. So we came together with some students from Waterford, Central Valley, Denair, our surrounding schools in our community, and we just came up with this idea so when we present, it gives the kids something to make a promise to themselves, to really take in the information and understand. So when we go to the schools, we'll play the video, I'll talk a little bit about her, and then we'll just give them all the information we can and just hope that that's all it takes. The youngest grade I've went and talked to was 5th grade, and they were actually really interested in it. I was nervous because they're so young, but in reality, that's the age we have to start talking to them about. We need to get to them before they even get the chance to experiment with it, because all it takes is that one time of them saying yes to lead them down the path, or even just that one time. So now I'm going to pass it over to Patrick Hogan.
Good morning. I got the shoulder tap of you need to make this as quick as possible, so I'm going to try to do this in just a few minutes. My name is Patrick Hogan. I'm a Deputy District Attorney in Stanislaus County. As a Deputy District Attorney, my primary areas of specialization are criminal street gangs and major narcotics. As a major narcotics DA, I was kind of new to that position when all of a sudden in 2018 we began to get alerts from the DEA and our federal partners that, hey, there's going to be this drug, you're going to start to see it. It's called fentanyl. It's a new opioid, and that was kind of it. So we knew it was coming. But like so many things in life, things happen slowly and then all at once. In 2018, we had a stop by CHP in our county where there was a driver that had 4 pounds of fentanyl in his car, and we said, oh my God, 4 pounds of fentanyl, this is unbelievable. That was a big deal. 2 days ago, the Fresno CHP office stopped a car that had 40 pounds of fentanyl in it. Didn't even make the news. 40 pounds of fentanyl. The reality is that this is a drug that has taken over the drug trade in this county, in this state, and in this country. You could see it in the numbers of people that have overdosed or been poisoned, the number of deaths it has caused. It is unbelievable how quickly it has come to affect our community. I always, as a prosecutor, I start off everything I do when I talk about this with the caveat that whenever I stand in front of people talking about this, I don't stand in front of people to say, we need to start sending everyone to state prison. I don't believe that, and that's not what I think we should be doing. But I also stand in front of people and I say that as a prosecutor, I can tell you that when we're not sending people to state prison ever, that also doesn't help. As an example of what happens in the state of California with changes in the law that happened in the last 10 years. Some of you may be surprised by this. If I drove my car over to this meeting this morning and I had in my car 40 pounds of fentanyl, I'm not qualified for state prison. No amount of drugs that I drive over here, if it's fentanyl, heroin, cocaine, methamphetamine, nothing qualifies me for state prison. I'm instead qualified for local prison, meaning my custody time would be served in county jail, or mandatory supervision, meaning that I could be sitting in the Starbucks next to you and I am technically, quote unquote, in prison. That's lunacy. I can stand in front of you right now and I can tell you another thing you probably didn't know, that during the pandemic, when this thing really took off, when this plague took over our community, we had a rule that came down from the state that said, hey, local jails, COVID is all over the place. It's really frightening. You need to start emptying out people that are in custody because we need to make sure that nonviolent people aren't kept in custody where they could be susceptible to COVID. One of the charges that was subjected to zero bail, meaning people could not be held in custody, selling drugs. In the midst of the pandemic, when we were losing people every other day to fentanyl poisonings and overdoses, we had drug dealers that were checking into jail and then getting out within an hour. We were living in a society where we had poison that was being sold on the street for profit, and there were no consequences for it. And it's crazy. So when we talk about the things that you can do as individuals to address this, there are lots of things that people have to do. Talking about it is one of them, but another thing that we have to be able to do is to put pressure on the people in Sacramento to say that this really is something that we care about, and this thing of just letting people out and pretending as if this is not a crime, that this is not a violent crime which is killing people in this community. That has got to stop. And Sacramento needs to take this seriously. You heard from Jennifer Marsh that we had hundreds of people in the last couple of years that have died in this county because of fentanyl. Imagine if it was gun violence instead. Would our governor be treating it differently? Would our legislators be treating it differently? Would they be talking about changes in laws to go after people who perpetrate those crimes? Of course they would. They need to treat this differently too. Thank you. And I want to introduce Dr. Silva, who are amazing people who deal with the front line in terms of addiction and the reality of what it is to work with people who are dealing with this themselves.
All right, I also got the nod to be very quick, so I won't belabor things. This is just a little bit about me. I wanted to just, be upfront that I'm actually a Central Valley kid. I grew up in Fresno. I went to UC Davis. I did my medical residency here in Modesto through family medicine. And most recently, I just graduated from my addiction medicine fellowship at Boston and have returned back to the Valley where I'm working as a full-time addiction medicine specialist. So just to kind of put that in context, and I'm very excited to be able to even talk about this. So we're focusing on stigma. It's been talked about. You guys have just done such a fabulous job with your personal stories, and it speaks volumes with the problem that we're having, because at the end of the day, we can prevent fentanyl poisoning, but stigma is getting in the way. And so just for some context, a lot of the times we hear about these failed drug policies and the racial war on drugs. Well, putting that into context can be really tricky. So I wanted to bring up this, this is from the Nixon administration. This is from the 60s. And this is really when we talk about how stigma and the law has sort of come together to penalize people for using substances. So this says the Nixon campaign in 1968 and the Nixon White House after that had two enemies, the anti-war left and black people. You understand what I'm saying? We knew we couldn't make it illegal to be either against the war or black, but by getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and blacks with heroin, and then criminalizing both heavily, we could disrupt those communities. We could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night on the evening news. Did we know we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did. So, this is something, I wish I had some of my harm reduction buddies, to talk about this. Generally, I have people with lived experience up with me and really highlighting their stories. However, I want to just talk about how, how does stigma actually interfere with people getting treatment? How does stigma interfere with people dying? Well, the reality is we have lots of ways to prevent a fentanyl overdose. We have fentanyl test strips. We have Narcan. We have drug testing. We have treatment. But the problem is a lot of people will not enter treatment and they'll die before they can get it. And it really comes down to stigma. Unfortunately, my sister-in-law recently, 2 weeks ago, died of a fentanyl poisoning. She's 27, and she left 4 young children with, of course, my brother is now raising all 4 of those children. And she overdosed unintentionally, so she was poisoned, and nobody called 911. Nobody gave Narcan. They didn't have Narcan. They didn't have fentanyl test strips. And so if we're not able to even call 911 because we're afraid of being sort of criminalized, or people are really afraid of what's going to happen to them, and then people are going to die over and over and over. So I just want to be really clear that we can prevent fentanyl overdoses, but it's a matter of getting the right people on board to help provide fentanyl test strips to everyone, for instance. Young people that are experimenting with drugs and substances, which is very normal. We've been doing this for thousands of years. So So what is harm reduction? I think a lot of us know what harm reduction is. It's Narcan, it's teaching, it's drug testing, it's giving out new needles to people. But it's also a movement. It's a social justice movement. It's caring for people who use substances or have a substance use disorder. It's providing them with dignity, the best treatment, and we all really, we need to get on board with this. So another thing that I like to talk about a lot when it comes to stigma, a lot of the times we don't recognize people that use substances as being resilient folks. We don't recognize that people who have been living on the street for, 10 years are still alive. And the reason behind that is because they're resilient. So when I see patients in clinic, I love figuring out where they're resilient. Wow, that's amazing. How have you been using for 10 years and you haven't died? Wow, how impressive. So building people up for the things that they don't recognize as resiliency is really indispensable for when it comes time to recovery. And I think the big thing too is that we need to remember that recovery or abstinence, that's really not the best marker of resiliency. So a lot of the times people say, gosh, if only you could be stronger, if you could stop using. Well, that's not everyone's goal all the time. And, we need to remember that there's other ways to mark resiliency in our population. Another thing is, it's not surprising that we mark resiliency as someone who's abstinence because we've had this, very much of a prohibitionist culture for a long time. And even in the medical field, I can't tell you how many times, other doctors or nurses or our own healthcare providers deal with this all the time, which is, how am I supposed to give someone methadone and treat their fentanyl use disorder? How am I supposed to do that and still allow them to use other drugs? But we heard, if someone can't get into a rehab facility because they're using alcohol and they're trying to treat their opioid use disorder, that's stigma. That's stigmatizing someone for their alcohol use and they're not able to get the treatment that they need. So this happens all the time. So I love this better definition. I love this for resilience. I talk about this all the time. But the process of harnessing key resources to sustain well-being, that's resilience. But we need to be able to offer those things, Narcan, fentanyl test strips, education to people in a non-stigmatized way. That's it. I wanted to be really quick. You can email me or, of course, find me online. And I hope to do more of these talks in the future. Thank you so much. And back to Jennifer.
All right, so you've heard some amazing testimonials and some expert information on, the problem that we have with fentanyl here in our community. So we want to give you some tools to be able to address this. So how many people have a fire extinguisher in their home? Pretty much everybody. Do you plan to have a fire in your home? You don't. But you have the fire extinguisher in the event that you have a fire, you're able to put it out and save property, possibly life. So naloxone is something that is life-saving, that everybody has access to and can save a life. So we're going to do a quick demonstration on how to use Narcan. There's a pack on your tables, and there's plenty in the back for everybody to take Narcan with them. Inside each pack, you have a set of gloves, a face shield, you have a box of Narcan. In each box, there are 2 applications of the Narcan. Narcan is very similar to like Flonase. It's a nasal spray that could save a life. I personally carry 4 applications of Narcan in a little purse that I have, a little makeup bag that I keep in my purse. I have it with me at all times. I don't have anybody in my immediate family with an opioid use disorder, but I'm in the grocery stores, I'm at sporting events, I'm at concerts, and somebody could go down and I had the potential to save somebody's life just by having this with me. So how to administer Narcan. After this, you'll all be trained. There's also a quick start guide inside of your kit, so if you forget everything I'm about to tell you, you still have a reference inside your kit, and there's visuals with pictures and also written instructions. So if you come upon somebody that is unconscious, you're going to call 911 first. First and foremost, always call 911. If they're not already laying on their back, you're going to put them on their back. You're going to try to arouse them. Hey, are you okay? Hey, are you okay? You can do a sternum rub, knuckles in the middle of the chest, do a firm rub, try to arouse them. If nothing, no pulse, no breathing, you want to go ahead and administer the Narcan. You're going to pull out your kit. You simply pull back the foil pouch, take out the Narcan. This is a little tester kit. Put index finger and middle finger on either side, thumb on the plunger. You're going to insert it into the person's nostril. If you angle it slightly to the ear on that side, you'll have greater saturation, which also works for your Flonase for all the allergy sufferers here in the Valley. My allergist told me that, and then one of our addiction specialists confirmed it. You insert, angle to that ear, and you just hit the plunger. That administers the medication. You want to wait 1 to 2 minutes, monitoring the person. If no response, again, that sternum rub, hey, are you okay? Hey, are you okay? No response. You're going to take out your second application, peel back the foil. Again, index finger and middle finger, thumb on the plunger, go to the opposite nostril, insert it into the point your fingers touch the bottom of their nostril, angle it again to that ear, and hit the plunger. It's that simple. That could save a life. It's recommended that you administer the Narcan, whether you know it's an overdose and poisoning or not. You know, if I'm in the grocery store, there's somebody down in front of me, you don't know if it's an overdose, you don't know if it's a heart attack, you don't know what's happening with them. There's some signs, which we went over, the pinpoint pupils, maybe some blueness around the lips. There could be nothing. The recommendation is to always administer the Narcan. There's no harmful effects to administer the Narcan if it wasn't an overdose and poisoning. So if they had a heart attack, you administer the Narcan. It does not impact them at all. There's no negative consequences to administering it. If you administered it and it was an overdose, you just saved their life. Only last thing I'm going to share is if the person does come conscious, you want to put them in a recovery position. The Narcan is an opioid antagonist, which means it blocks the receptors in the brain, and that can immediately also put them into withdrawals, which sometimes there'll be vomiting involved in that. You want to put them on their side in a recovery position and stay with them until medical staff arrive. So again, we have Narcan available for everybody. It's available through your local pharmacies. It's available through our Opioid Safety Coalition. We have the bags here today. I encourage everybody to take it, keep it on your person. It is temperature sensitive, so you don't want to leave it in your car. You want to have it with you, have it in room temperature. So again, I carry 4 doses myself. With the potency of fentanyl, is taking 3 to 4 applications to reverse an overdose. So you're welcome to take, if there's plenty for everybody, take more than 1 pack. So with that, I am going to invite Marvin to come up. And just one last thing in closing from me is I hope you looked at those beautiful families that we had that came up on the screen that were the people that we lost in our community. Some of those people had a substance use disorder and were addicted to substances. Some, like Bella, were just trying something, and maybe it was the first time. Maybe they were taking what they thought was a Xanax because they have some anxiety going on, and they're told taking a Xanax will make you feel better. And they take half of that pill, and that's all it takes. Anybody, any family is susceptible to this. You know, drugs don't discriminate. I hope that you all take the information back, talk with your families, and we're available for questions afterwards because I know we're over on time, and I'm sorry, Marvin, but I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, everybody. So I'm sitting in the back on my knee, and we were intentional about wanting to hit you over the head and touch you emotionally. So many times, and I've been in all these, and you all know, it becomes a mental exercise, and I think, oh, these things don't happen to me. I text my girls in the back during this presentation and just said, I love you, take care today. And they're incredible children, probably like yours, just like Christine's son was, Sophie's sister. But we wanted to touch her heart in emotion. So I hope that's what we did, because, boy, they sure did hit me. When I talked to Jennifer back in late November, we began to talk about this and plan this time. And you are all leaders of leaders. You all run in circles. So we want to encourage you some things as we wrap this up, and I asked Steve to move to the front here, is that to talk to this about your circles. Part of the stigma is that nobody talks about this, or, and frankly, and I will say this because I love you, Sometimes I run with groups that they quickly move to judgmentalism. And they quickly, well, if they were good, or if the bad parents, come on, we all know that's not always true. So I want to encourage you, I'm sure none of you are like that, especially if somebody cuts you off on the freeway. Instead of assuming that they're aggressive, you immediately assume that they're probably having a baby or something, right? So my thought, and I did mention it to Jen, is to give grace and not judgmentalism. Don't jump too fast to that. I've been so guilty of that. And Patrick, you did great. I'm glad we didn't give you the 30 minutes that you wanted. Just kidding. Just kidding. You hammered home. So when I go to court, I might need you sometime. I did send a text to my girls, and I want to thank Christine and Sophie. I want to tell you, for the Spanish-speaking community, Marcella, just kind of wave Marcella right there. She does a Spanish-speaking presentation, so if you have connections and interaction with the Latino community, we have this in Spanish as well, and they can help you. In the back, a couple of things. First of all, Jessica's house. Where's, forget what, Natalie, there we go. They do have a small group, support group for families that you're welcome to connect with, and they're right here at this table right here. And Janice Freeman, we asked her weeks ago to come and just be Embrace Grace. It's a organization, a ministry for young women and boys who are dealing with pregnancies, and love to have you connect with them as well at the table. There are some more narco packs in the back if you'd like to get some. One other thing, and then I will wrap this up. Steve will come on up, and Steve is the executive director of Redwood Center that cares for families that are struggling with this and working through some of these. And so we've asked him to, again, to pay attention to the clock.
There's not much I can say to follow up on the people that I've already shared with transparency. Stigma, I have 29 years clean. Grew up in Del Rio. Addiction hits everybody. Narcan, the majority of some of my team members are here, and we've used Narcan and we've saved a life. This card, I think, sums it all up. Thank you, Marvin. Thank you, City Ministry Network, for creating the venue where we can explore these issues and openly discuss these issues. Awareness, educate ourselves more, and get involved, whether that just be using the Narcan or finding somebody like myself or many other community leaders that are in the room that run these kinds of programs. Get involved.
Good job, Steve. Thank you. By the way, Steve, I would assume to stick around, but I've asked Jen's team, Jen and Patrick and the others, to stick around, and the doctor to stick around. And any yeah buts or what ifs, they were free to do that. And I know sometimes in these presentations, yeah but and what if, please do that, and Steve will be available as well. We bring these presentations as the catalyst because I know that you are a compassionate group. You have circles of leadership, so please begin to have this conversation. Let's break the stigma of it's assuming it's somebody else's issue, or if it's from this particular neighborhood and not from yours. And I'm assuming that Steve Berkowitz was the Del Rio out by Escalon rather than the Del Rio trailer park on 7th Street. I'm from the neighborhood, so I understand how that all works. Yeah. We're going to ask you, some of you have been taking notes of slide. If you do us a favor and download those, upload those to the Catalyst YouTube. So just go to YouTube, type in Catalyst. You'll see a link there. Mark asks that you would, if you could, that would really help us. I want to encourage you again, if you met somebody, this is about bridging and connecting group. So I want to encourage you, if you met somebody, and by the way, let me say it this way. When you come in, and I know sometimes it's hard to be comfortable if it's a new group, but try to find somebody and welcome them. Those of you who are old timers, welcome people and make them feel comfortable. Maybe sit down with them, have coffee or whatever, tea, whatever you do. I wanted to let you know that we are a nonprofit 501c3. So if you want to support us financially, the QR code's right on your table. Just go ahead and take care of that. That's easy. Also, too, we have a crab feed coming up in March. Tables are going quick. So, and I'm not saying that because everybody says that. So please, if you want to be a part with us, do that. A couple of different things. I'm going to ask Mary Starr, wherever she is, to come on up this direction. And did Brandon, the police chief, did he make it? Okay, come on up, Mary. Okay, great. So last month, Mary led us through authentic leadership. And we were quickly inundated with, well, how do I become an authentic leader? How do I create a culture in my workplace that is led and characterized by authentic leadership? And so I'm going to ask Mary and Leah, go ahead and finish that.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for the feedback and the interest in authentic leadership. And as a result of that, CMN has decided to have a workshop next month on March 2nd, following Catalyst, so we can dig deeper into what authentic leadership is and the how-tos, practical ways to develop authentic leadership skills. And at that workshop, you'll learn how to become more self-aware, how to develop your ethical perspective in leadership, to bring in balanced processing and decisions, and to encourage relational transparency in the workplace. So it'll be next month, March 2nd, and there's probably information, well, there isn't, but it will be $25 for the workshop. It will be here at Cross Point and close by, okay? And I will be in back for sign-ups for that, so I can send you more information about it. It will be here 8:30 to 11, 2.5 hours, a lot of hands-on activities, engaging with others, and giving you some tools to help you be more authentic leaders.
Thanks, Mary. And I know for some of you, thank you, Mary. And I do know some of you are on the calendar budget year, so you have some staff development money. Or if you're on the fiscal calendar, you probably need to spend some to get through some. So welcome you to do that. And Mary will be around if you take sign-ups. We will get it on Eventbrite here in a few days, but we want to get this information. Next month, we don't see the police chief. Brandon was going to be here, and I'm hoping he's okay. But a year ago, the city started a process on Forward Together, which was a continued effort in how do we connect our police force, our authorities, and community so they can begin to get really reflect the fact that all of us are responsible for the public safety of everybody. And so the mayor, I know Jeremiah's here as well, they began a pretty tough, courageous effort to begin to put a plan together for our community. The police chief will be here. We've already been talking with him and some of his team and others and telling you now, okay, what is some of the progress? What are some things that we're going to do to begin to make this an incredible place for everybody to grow up in and to grow old in, especially around the specific public safety. So we're going to get a great update. Listen, I'm going to go ahead and close in prayer, Gab, if that's okay, and then we will get you out of here. Lord, thank you for these men and women, their efforts around this evil, insidious thing. Give grace to the families. And Lord, I know you touched people's hearts this morning and even their feet about what to do next. We ran out of time today, Lord. Wanted to have them talk around the table about their next steps, but there it is. And so, God, let's just not sit on our hands. Would you remind each one? In Christ's name, amen. You have a good morning.